Okay.
Oh, there it is. All right.
Are we going?
Yeah, we should start over though.
No?
Maybe.
You're live. Okay. We're live. Should we just go?
Bell! Bell! Yeah, you should stop it. Nobody's started yet.
Nope, there's someone.
Ah, dang it.
Okay.
It was frozen. How you guys doing? We're trying to mess around with technology again. And, of course, it's always messing up. So.
Yeah, no. Of course, we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. I do. But today we're going to talk about heart health. And especially with women and heart health. Because apparently women have to be number one in everything, even heart disease.
No, that is not the exact reason we're doing this talk.
This is exactly what.
We're doing this talk because it's February. And there's Valentine's Day in February. And so we thought
I heard about that.
a nice theme would be to do the heart. Heart health.
Yeah.
And then that other stuff he said.
And then on Valentine's Day, we're going to do why your cat is better than your boyfriend.
It's true, folks.
Oh, yeah.
We got the research on this.
It's all backed by peer-reviewed research. So, one of the things this month with heart health is, good Lord, like everybody's dying of heart disease, you know? So, that's the people in our family, people in our communities, our moms, our sisters, our daughters. And what sucks is that research shows that you can resolve heart disease or prevent heart disease by 92% by doing 5 basic things. The other thing is you can cure about 70% by getting a plane ticket and getting the hell out of the U.S. and eating and drinking and breathing and stressing like people do in other countries, but don't have the cardiovascular effects from that. So, as we go through this, we'll talk about some very basic things when it comes to research, what the true actual causes are for cardiovascular disease, because I think there's a big misconception when it comes to that. Most people, it's just stress and cholesterol, which is like ridiculous. So we'll talk about some of the real causes and how we can actually fix those through lifestyle medicine. And everything from hypertension to plaquing in the arteries to strokes, right? And as we go through this, if you have questions or want to put your point of view out there too, feel free to post something on there. So this is kind of like a live webinar.
Yeah, and also let us know if you are not seeing us, if our signal is bad. Let us know, because I'm not sure that we're good tonight.
What was that?
So. Can you guys? Are you guys getting us okay?
Why did I brush my hair if random technology comes? So,
okay.
Maybe? I don't know.
Keep going. Okay.
All right.
We're telling your friends to join. Okay.
We good?
All right.
All
I'm
right.
going to do a couple of shares, too, if I can.
So, I'm Dr. Patrick Garrett. Most guys already know me. I do functional lifestyle medicine and have a long track record of helping people reverse heart disease and prevent stroke and deep plaque arteries and all those kind of basic things. But the whole goal is to just, like arrhythmias, this kind of thing, figure out what's causing it, make those changes so you can reverse it. And we also have Holly here. And Holly Hajjaj.
That's exactly how you say it. No, that is not. It's Hajjaj. Yeah, I'm Holly Hajjaj.
I said that right.
I'm a wellness provider myself, yoga instructor, wellness coordinator. Always super excited and have a lot of fun doing these talks. So I'm here just for fun, pretty much.
You got research on
that? For fun and research.
Fun research.
Right.
All right, so let's talk about probably the first concern would be hypertension or high blood pressure. One thing that's a good caveat to remember about blood pressure is it really actually hypertension, or do you just have elevated blood pressure sometimes? So when we talk about hypertension, it should be a chronic thing that's elevated even when you're relaxed and chilled out. So, the proper way to take a blood pressure is to not be sick, not be hurt, not be injured, right? Relaxed, and for sitting for 5 minutes, chilled, right? And then if you have blood pressure that's elevated, that's a concern, but only if it's continuously that way for a couple weeks. So what we see a lot of times, though, is people go to the doctor's office and they get what's called white coat hypertension. So they get their blood pressure elevates because they're nervous, or because you just wasted half their day, or they just sat in the waiting room for 4 hours, or they're half naked with a crappy little robe on. Those would always make people stressful, and especially when they have, they're hurt or injured or sick. Then they take their blood pressure there and they get a high blood pressure reading, and then often they may be diagnosed off just that one. In fact, when I was like 22 maybe, I had some headaches and I couldn't figure out what's going on. I went to my doc and he took my blood pressure and he said, "Oh my God, you have hypertension." And I thought, okay, well, I'm young. Why do I have hypertension? And so I asked him, I said, "Well, what causes this?" And he says, 95% of the time, we just don't know what causes this. And I remember thinking, I've told patients this all the time, I'm pretty sure out of two of us, you should know, like, you went to school for this, you should know this. Well, it wasn't until graduate school that I figured out what it is. But what I also figured out is, why did he diagnose me with one blood pressure, right?
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't make any sense. And, I lived in Texas, and you drive like 80 miles an hour on the freeway, and so it's pretty rambunctious trying to drive around. And just the fact of like getting off the highway, then going sitting there, and then getting your blood pressure taken, yeah, probably should have been a little bit elevated. But now when I go, I got all that pretty much fixed up, just by lifestyle stuff. But then when I go for like a wellness exam or something, oh my God, I'm just like, calm down, don't, and raising my blood pressure up. Mm-hmm. So, at home it's better than when at the doctor's office. So that's the first thing. So, who is more likely to have a heart attack, men or women?
Definitely women.
Yeah. Why is that?
Because of men.
Because of men. Women have all the same problems as men, plus they have men. So,
No, what's the real reason for that? Like, they're always talking about that. It's heart disease is the number one killer of women. 1 in 2 women.
Yeah.
Die. 1 in 2 women die from heart disease, correct?
Well, have heart disease, yeah.
Oh.
Well, maybe 1 in 2 die. Yeah, that's a good question. You're not supposed to ask me questions I don't know live, okay?
We'll research that and get back to you.
So, with what happened, so like post-World War II, before that, men worked and women stayed at home. And then when men went to war, women went to work. And then all of a sudden, it was like, hey, I'm free, I get to work, this is awesome. And so then they stayed in the workforce. And when women ate the same crap with the same stressful job, sat around all the time, they had the same physiology as men, and they started having the same risk of heart attack as men. The only difference is that while it might be equal because we're equally doing the same thing, having the same stress, having the same physiology, there is the change that women take estrogenic pills like hormone replacement therapy and birth control pills.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did they pull ahead?
Yeah, so like the Women's Health Initiative study back in 2005 was stopped because the scientists felt it was unethical to document what the synthetic hormone replacement was doing to women. And one of the things they found was that it increased the risk of cardiovascular disease by 87% by taking synthetic estrogens. And that's what girls take from 16 years on. So before menopause, they're taking all the estrogen. And the risk of taking that is you have a heart attack at 16 or a stroke at 16.
Taking estrogen how?
Birth control.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But then also, I was thinking about the other ways, too, that we have an estrogenic society with the dairy and the chemicals.
Yeah, so dairy is astronomically high in estrogen. Plastics are high in estrogen. Makeup's high in estrogen. Styrofoam's high in estrogen. Even, like, the clothes you wear for, like, working out are estrogenic. And so all that absorbs into you. and it takes a toll after a while.
How does it cause the issues? What's the mechanism of estrogen causing heart issues?
Well, so it ends up damaging the cardiovascular tissue, and as it repairs, then those repairs are not dissolved. So there's not a deplaquing process that takes place. And so estrogen helps constrict the arteries and then damage the arteries, and that plaquing with the constriction that ends up causing decreased blood flow.
Okay.
And then add in a little anger, and boom, it's closed off, and you have a heart attack.
So we do know that emotions do play a chemical role in the body. So
Yeah.
when he says add in the anger, he really means that.
Yeah, anger can, let's see, I think it's 40% of heart attacks are when people are angry. And so when you get angry, your blood vessel will just constrict like that. If you have any decrease of extra flow in there, you can shut that baby down real fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that way, if you're pissed at your husband, just make him angry all the time. And maybe, it's over pretty quick. 40% of people have heart attacks at 4 a.m. You know what that is?
Why? No, I don't.
Because their wives kill them at 4 a.m.
No.
No? Okay. So at 4 a.m., through basically about 3 a.m., that's when most people will wake up in the middle of the night if they have to wake up. Because of stress, because cortisol is peaks around 3 o'clock in the morning. And so your heart is actually beating faster and harder at 3 a.m., and so if there's any cardiovascular constrictions there, you can actually then shut that off, and they'll have a heart attack in their sleep.
That's kind of spooky.
Well, so that's the way I'd want to go out.
In your sleep? Yeah.
The second best way I'd like to go out. So
You can guess what the first is.
smoking meth. No.
By the way, can we stop really quick? There's some people on. Newman. Hi, Newman.
Hey, Newman.
Newman says we look uptown. By the way, Dr. Garrett we're at his new office. What's the address here?
So it's in Old Town. It's next to an Indian place and a bar. So an Old Town bar's across the street.
801?
Yeah, 801 East Douglas. And it's in the second floor of what used to be the Grand Hotel for the Union train station.
Yeah, Union Station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a nice little office. Has it's like a maze. There's like 4,000 offices up here. So
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
It's pretty swank though. Thanks, Newman.
Yeah.
Hi, Mark. Hi, Tina. We've got some other people showing up.
Hey, Tina.
Feel free to comment appropriately or inappropriately.
Inappropriately. So, okay. With that, I mean, first thing is the emotions play a big part for women, but that estrogen content really plays a big part. So, like, even if you drink coffee out of a styrofoam cup instead of glass, that styrofoam is very powerful estrogen that can actually cause a dramatic increase in your risk of cardiovascular disease because of that. So, I mean, basically, if you take all those together, it's not why are women having heart attacks more than men. It's, yeah, they should have more heart attacks than men. So.
Tina said, dang it, appropriately. He did say inappropriately is also appropriate.
That's right.
So heart disease is essentially blood pressure issues and plaquing.
Yeah. So another big common thing is aneurysm. So as the blood pressure expands and dilates, if there's any weakness in that wall, it might balloon out and you get an aneurysm.
Okay.
And then if that aneurysm pops, even if you're in the ER with like the best cardiovascular surgeon right there, you still got a 50-50 chance of surviving with that.
Okay.
So that's what took out John Ritter, yeah. But he had Marfan syndrome, so it's kind of expected. So aneurysm, strokes, and you can have strokes that are like the blood flow decreases, which is typically what we think. So you just have a clot that passes through there. The other one is hemorrhagic stroke, and that's where it pops and then you bleed out. And that's a big concern with like aspirin, because if you look at the studies that, let's see, what is it? 70% of people who take ibuprofen or aspirin will have a GI bleed within 2 weeks. And so if it's bleeding there, you have the potential to bleed other places. And if it pops, that'll prevent you from clotting that off because it blocks an enzymatic pathway called thromboxane, and then you just bleed out.
Okay.
So 10,000 people are saved by aspirin a year because it thins the blood, but 14,000 people die because of the thinning of the blood. So actually, like 50% more people die taking aspirin because of the side effects.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is pretty serious.
It's super serious.
Super serious.
Super serious.
So what do we do, Dr. G? What do we do?
Don't be a woman. That's if more women die of heart attacks than men, then the first step is don't be a woman.
That's what this show is about.
Yeah.
Yes.
I used to be a woman, but now my risk of heart attack is lower. So now I'm a guy. So, even like, think of things like dementia as your parents get older. You think, okay, well, vascular dementia is a big part of that. So instead of narrowing and plaquing the arteries, they actually decrease blood flow. So if it's to this area of the brain, they might have like Broca's aphasia. If they have it here, so they have trouble speaking. Here, they have trouble making cognitive intelligible sentences. So they do what's called word salad. Back here, if it was the posterior cerebral artery, they would have vision problems. And up here, they'll have frontal kind of like cognitive, like reasoning kind of problems. And if it's that middle cerebral artery, then they'll end up with like motor sensory problems. So that plaquing of the arteries is a pretty big deal for dementia and decreased cortisol or cortical functioning in the brain. But what's interesting is we kind of expect that in the older people, but not so much in middle-aged people. I'm 44, so that's, I think, 45 and older, I think, is middle-aged. I think that's right. So middle-aged people, there was the Journal of the American Academy of Neurology had a study, and they looked at the cognitive differences of people that had hypertension, just baseline hypertension, and their cognitive function, and they found that even middle-aged people with slightly narrowing of the arteries, whether it's from stress, anger, or plaquing, had significant decrease in cognitive function.
I would definitely believe that.
Yeah. Which is kind of survival of the fittest. I mean, if you can't survive in your work environment home, then, you kind of slow down and fall apart.
But this is important because this doesn't just happen to older people. It's something we should be thinking about now. All of us right now.
And we're seeing cardiovascular disease, the foam cells, starting as children as young as 10 years of age now. So like 5 years to 10 years of age, we can actually cause beginning stages of heart disease and plaquing in the arteries in kids, in little kids. And that's why if you combine that with like type 2 diabetes, Generation X, my generation, is expected to not outlive their parents. And we're actually supposed to lose about 28 years off our lifespan. And a lot of that has to do with the combination of cardiovascular disease and in what's called advanced glycation end products, which is the sugar damage of the arteries, that we were supposed to end up having strokes and pulmonary embolisms and aneurysms and,
Didn't you tell me, too, that you can have these things going on inside you and not have any warning signs?
Yeah, you expect it someone that's like 80 maybe, like, oh, of course grandma has some of that. But a 40-year-old, my sister had a heart attack at 26, That's crazy young, but it's not that big of a surprise anymore. And so as you see these people like in their 40s getting quintuple bypasses, holy crap, that used to be like an amazing rarity. No one ever see that before, and now it's becoming very, very common in younger and younger people.
So why is it becoming, aside from the estrogen, you discussed that, but what are the other reasons it's increasing?
Well, we all know that heart disease hates young people. The music that they play and that man buns, we kind of deserve it. Right?
What?
So
it's just rude. Heart
It's
disease
rude.
is mean and rude.
It hates hipsters.
And so it's taking it out on the young people.
That's right. Its mama didn't hug it enough, so now it's going to hurt.
We're
the next
here for
generation.
hard science, people. We're here to give you what you want, the research.
So, you know, the big part of that, I think, is the sugar intake. I mean, all the chemicals, we've dramatically increased the chemicals that cause cardiovascular damage. We increase stress now. I mean, we're the number one country for anxiety and depression. So that's a big chunk of that. That's the narrowing of the arteries. And then we also have more synthetic estrogens that are going to narrow it, synthetic testosterone that are going to cause heart disease, especially heart attack. And most people are eating, think about this. So we consume about 160 pounds of sugar a year now, right? 160 pounds of sugar a year. And the average teenager now consumes 800 sodas a year, which accounts for half their daily calories. And so then why are they having heart attacks in their 30s? Why wouldn't they?
Can you talk a little bit more about this? Because what it used to be was fat, dietary fat. You weren't supposed to eat dietary fat because that was going to cause heart disease. But that's not the case, right? It's really the sugar, correct?
Well, okay, so on the fat...
Aside from the other things.
But yeah, it's almost always sugar. But on the fat side, you have two types of fat. Or, you have anti-inflammatory fat and you have inflammatory fat. And, you know, back in the 1970s, or even before that with eggs, right? With eggs, they try to convince Americans that eggs cause heart attacks. Which makes a lot of sense because we've always eaten eggs, but then we had a sudden epidemic of heart disease. Oh, wait, that doesn't make any sense. It can't be eggs. So, this you can watch a documentary about this too. And so there's, I forget who was president, but it was in black and white, so it was before colored TV. I don't know. And so they had a scientific panel that they put together from the president to decide whether eggs were going to cause heart disease, and we should just avoid them like the plague. So, that scientific panel came to the logical conclusion of scientific consensus that, of course, eggs did not cause freaking heart disease. So, what do you do about that? You fire that panel, and then they hired a new scientific panel, and guess what they figured out?
I have no idea. I'm riveted.
Eggs cause heart disease now.
What?
Yeah. So then, of course, as we went along, that never panned out. People stopped eating eggs, and the heart disease still kept skyrocketing. And then we finally said, well, eat the whites, but not the yolks. And then we're like, gosh, the yolks are so healthy for you. We'll eat them sparingly, maybe yolk one day, half a white the other day. And then finally they just said, eat your damn eggs because they don't cause heart disease, which we all knew, right? I mean,
did they say it just like that?
They did.
They said, eat your damn eggs.
I'm going to write a book called Eat Your Damn Eggs. So, that didn't pan out. So then in the 1970s, we came out with the food pyramid, and the idea was that fat is what caused heart disease. So we need to do low fat. But what we did is low fat, high carb, and we just started eating a bunch of bread and donuts and waffles, and then we found out that we were wrong about the fat. And that's because, like, if you look at omega-3 fatty acids versus omega-6 fatty acids. So, something like animal fat. If the cow eats grass, high omega-3. If the cow eats corn, so we make it more profitable, it's high omega-6s. In those fatty acids, if you eat omega-3 fatty acid-rich food, it actually reverses cardiovascular disease. And something like cold water fatty fish has 9 separate ways by which it reverses cardiovascular disease. 9 separate ways. I mean, that's the most powerful thing that you could ever do to reduce cardiovascular disease is eat a hell of a lot more fish, or eat like the fish, which means eat plants. And then it also decreases pain and inflammation, and of course heart disease really is just inflammation. And that omega-3 actually is just as effective as one ibuprofen for getting rid of pain and inflammation, including cardiovascular inflammation. Now, if we contrast that with like omega-6 rich food, which is inflammatory stuff, that does four things for the heart. It literally increases pain and inflammation. So it causes cardiovascular inflammation. It causes hypertension. And what's really interesting is, of course, it causes irregular heartbeats or arrhythmia. And so some people will be like, well, I've lived 30 years and suddenly my heart doesn't know how to beat right. Well, the cardiovascular physiology, the electroconductivity of that runs off of omega-3s, not omega-6s. So, of course, it's not going to be wired right anymore. But it's not a heart problem. It's a diet problem.
Yeah.
So, you'll have irregular heartbeats. And the last thing is you'll have increase of platelet aggregation with omega-6 rich foods, which then means more heart attack and stroke. In nature, it's pretty balanced. Omega-3, omega-6 in nature. And you should get about 1-to-1 ratio, maybe 2 times the omega-6s to 1 omega-3, depending on who you read. The American diet, for every 1 anti-inflammatory cardiovascular disease reversing fatty acid you get, most Americans are eating 40 times the inflammatory omega-6s. 40 times more likely to be heart attack, stroke, arrhythmia, and chronic inflammation.
Yeah.
So it's not a surprise when you look at that. And so it wasn't fat that causes heart attacks. It's eating inflammatory fatty acids so we can make more profitable meat. That's all it is. And instead of taking olive oil to cook food, we use corn oil to cook food. So we just created all these inflammatory things. And you throw some butter in there, you got estrogen, and that's going to increase your risk of cardiovascular disease. Mm-hmm. But it's not the butter doing it, and it's the estrogen.
Lifestyle as well. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So, fat's not fat. In fact, the countries that eat the most fat are the skinniest countries in the world.
Yeah.
So fat
is your friend.
Yeah. Especially if your friend's avocado. Then he's like your totally best friend, and you like totally like confide in him about
like
stuff.
This.
So, and even with cardiovascular disease, the heart isn't really the biggest concern because you're plaquing up all these arteries and damaging all these arteries. There's 2 really good tests that you can do, and we do these all the time, but not a lot of docs do it, but you see it in research and seminars now, so they should start doing these more. But 2 of the best inflammatory markers that you can see for cardiovascular disease, kind of gauge where you're at, is one called homocysteine. And it's not just gay cysteine, right? Homocysteine is one of, like it's going to clubs and dancing.
Those are stereotypes.
With other cysteines?
Stereotypes.
Oh, that is a stereotype. So, there's homocysteine and cardio-CRP. So, most people know CRP maybe. That's C-reactive protein. And C-reactive protein, if I fall down the stairs, that goes up. If I'm sick, it goes up. If I'm hurt, it goes up. So it's a very general inflammatory marker, kind of like LDH or ESR. So we don't want CRP. It's not sensitive enough. So they came out with what's called cardio-CRP or high-sensitive HS-CRP, depending on which lab you use. And that one can detect the tiny amounts of inflammation within the cardiovascular system. So with that, you can then look at homocysteine and cardio-CRP and say, what is the inflammatory process that's going on with my blood vessels?
Are these things that someone can ask their primary care physician about with testing? So
you definitely can. They definitely have the ability to do it, and they can justify it. But we tend to find that not many will do it. I don't know why. But I mean,
you feel those are the best markers.
They are, okay. Yeah. Not because I feel it. That's what research shows, right? I mean, those are the cardiovascular markers. So with homocysteine, they'll let the numbers go to 11 for normal, but really you want around 5.5. And the way that you help lower that is through B12, like methyl B12. That gets rid of 50% of that. So diet-wise, if you're eating fermented foods, that'll lower homocysteine, that lowers cardiovascular disease. Most people don't think of like B12 as heart medicine, but it is, right? It's not only a natural antidepressant, but it's also going to lower your risk of heart disease.
There's so many things that does.
Oh, yeah.
The methyl B12.
Well, that's because that homocysteine pathway, it regulates DNA, genes, mood, sleep, brain function, memory, and detoxification, and cardiovascular disease. And it starts that cycle off. It's awesome.
Did you see hormones, too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Hormones, too.
Yes, I didn't. So, and then the other thing that does that is B6. And B6 then converts the other 50% of homocysteine off as glutathione. And that's your major detoxification pathway in the body. That's how your liver purifies your blood all the time, is with glutathione. And for women, this is a big concern. So if you want to say, like, think about the leading cause of liver failure in the United States is caused by one drug, acetaminophen, which is Tylenol. So 70% of 70% of liver failures are from women, not men, right? Because of course, got to be number one again. So 70%, and the average age is 36 years old. So what? So okay.
For liver failure.
For liver failures. So then, if we extrapolate that out, we say the reason glutathione, the reason that Tylenol kills the liver is because it converts to something like, I think it's NADQI, which is a very toxic metabolite that actually kills the liver very quickly. If you then go to the other side of that and you want to nullify that toxic effect, then you use glutathione, and I think it's actually glutathione transferase, but you use glutathione, and then that takes that toxic acetaminophen metabolite to a non-toxic one, so you can get rid of your headache but not kill your liver in the process. So, what does that mean for heart?
I'm listening.
All right. It's a long way around here. Okay, so if women, the majority of liver failures are women, the majority are around 36 years old, and the reason they have the liver failure is because they can't convert the toxic metabolite to the non-toxic one because they don't have enough glutathione, means that they probably have high homocysteine because they don't have enough B6 to convert that homocysteine to glutathione to protect themselves from the acetaminophen.
Okay.
What?
So are you saying then you can take acetaminophen and be okay?
Yeah, you can take all you want as long as you got enough glutathione.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you don't have enough B6 to detoxify that one pathway, then you're probably not converting homocysteine to glutathione, and cardiovascular risk goes up.
And you can get B6 through supplementation, or what are our foods for B6?
So B's, always think beans, greens, and fermented food. Yeah. So like kombucha, fermented escabeche, kimchi. No MSG though?
Beans, greens, and smelly fermented foods.
Yeah. I always say kombucha.
Actually, I really like kimchi. And kombucha, I drink it all the time.
Yeah. And kimchi's pretty good. I mean, it's very spicy, but if you mix it with other stuff, I can't remember. We had something at this Chinese restaurant, and I mixed the sauce with the kimchi, and it was really good because it muted that overbearing spicy flavor of that.
So Newman is saying that once he had a coffee cup full of marbles that almost gave him a heart attack. Do you know anything about that?
That's weird.
He said, true story.
I don't know anything about that prank and how you did that.
You are not pinning this on me. Everyone knows.
Everybody knows Holly's the one that plays pranks on everybody at the office.
Oh.
Everybody knows that.
Everyone knows I'm the pure-hearted one. This one's the trouble.
I'm like Harry Potter, and you're like the, I don't even know. I don't know. You're
folks,
like, I'm like Star Trek.
You can't make Harry Potter. You
Spock,
haven't even seen Harry Potter.
And you're that dude in the fourth one that they fought against.
You can't.
The fourth movie.
You can't mix. No, just stop.
I don't know.
Until you've seen them all or read them all, you can't speak about it.
So, you know, one of the considerations for kids, and this was crazy shocking, but, okay, so it's 2017 now, right?
Yes, I was looking at the comments. Right. Sorry.
So,
yes.
In 2006, 11 years ago, the American diet became the leading cause of preventable death, especially heart attack. Over smoking. So now everybody thinks, oh, well, if I smoke, well, I'm going to get heart disease. Man, what you're eating is more toxic than that cigarette, unless you're also eating that cigarette. Then that's probably more toxic.
Why do they say cigarettes cause heart disease?
Well, it's because the government doesn't want people to enjoy cigarettes. All these protesters trying to ruin everybody's fun.
Wow.
No.
So there's no actual mechanism.
Obama hated
Obama's
cigarettes.
Whoa.
So we all...
This is not a political show. You need to stop.
Oh, you want research? Okay. Evidence?
Nicotine does something to the... You told me this, but I forgot.
So nicotine has, all these different... I think it's like 5,000 different chemicals in it. And most of them are cancer-causing chemicals. But a lot of them are like nicotinic acid are damaging to the arteries. So that nicotinic acid kind of bounces around and damages the arteries. And then you have your small LDLs, which are like little repairmen. And they go and they patch those holes up. And then you eat ginger and turmeric and boswellia, quercetin, rutin. And those foods then smooth that wall back out so you never have heart disease.
Simple as that.
Yeah. Steam, scrape, and tape. That's all you gotta do. So, does that make sense?
Yes. So nicotine, but nicotine isn't the only variable, right?
Right. I mean, that's the thing is, nicotine's nothing compared to McDonald's and lean cuisine and my mom's cooking.
Pizza?
No, don't bring pizza into this.
I'm going to bring your friend pizza into
it's not
this.
my friend. I hate pizza. It's like meth.
I love pizza because it's like meth. So, I can admit it.
If I could marry pizza, I would, but it'd only be so I can eat its family.
That's weird.
It's
right.
Mike Birbiglia made that up. All right. So one of the cool things. So I told you about that doc that I had that said, "Oh, it's a big mystery. We have no idea what causes heart disease." And so lo and behold, that's true. Like, let's see, the preface of that is true. That in books it says 95% of the time we don't know what causes cardiovascular disease. But that's not really accurate because when I took cardiovascular physiology, there was this great picture that said blood vessel constriction, and it told all the pathways that constrict blood vessels. Which means if you know that, you know what constricts blood vessels, and if it's chronic, you know what causes cardiovascular disease. So one of those was antidiuretic hormone. So if you drink a bunch of beer, drink a bunch of caffeine, those are diuretics. And then antidiuretic hormone will increase, and then you have a hypertension. So, too much beer, too much white wine, too much...
Fun. I'm just kidding.
Too many good times. So... And all the coffee that people drink, you can deplete up to a quart of water for every cup of coffee. And those all take a toll on most people because they're not even drinking enough water anyways. They're not drinking half their body weight in ounces of water. So you're not drinking enough, but you're consuming a ton of diuretics. And then the antidiuretic hormone ends up causing reflexive hypertension. And it'll continue until you cure it with...
Love.
Nope.
Candy. Marbles. Friends. Rubber duckies.
Water. That's right. Rubber duckies are in the water. I see where you go with that. Water. Yeah. All right. So you cure it with water, and that solves that one mechanism, right? Well, then you also have another mechanism, and that's the epinephrine-norepinephrine pathway, and that causes vascular constriction, and so that's adrenaline. And, fight or flight, of course, if someone's chasing you down the street with an axe and a ski mask, your blood vessels should probably be constricted because of that.
But if you're feeling like someone is chasing you down the street with an axe every day, all day long...
Yeah. Yeah, then that's your cause, and that's an easy solution. So I had one guy that had a really high cardiovascular, had a hypertension, and we looked at the media he was consuming. So he was like lots of Fox News. It's just like everything's bad, anger, 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 and we switched him over to PBS and like NPR Science Friday and reading or listening to the radio instead of doing that TED Talks, those kind of things. And it was funny because I didn't think this guy would change at all. But sure enough, he actually changed. His blood sugars improved, his blood pressures dramatically improved, his outlook on life improved, and he went from this guy who could tell you everything wrong with a politician and how evil and awful everything was, and having the chance of probably dying pretty fast, to just being calm and relaxed and having normal blood pressure.
Can you speak to how the parasympathetic nervous system ties into this?
Well, so the parasympathetics are like housekeeping. So basically it's just keep your blood vessels nice and firm to the point that they can get blood flow against gravity to the brain. And that's all you're really doing most of the time. That's what blood pressure mostly is just how hard to squeeze the blood vessels to get blood to the brain against gravity so we can get nutrients and oxygen to there. And otherwise your muscles, especially your calf muscles, are your second heart. Every time you move around and you walk, you actually increase blood flow all throughout the body.
Yeah, I thought that was the only way that blood made its way back up to the heart was through contraction of the skeletal muscle.
Right. So that's mostly true, but pressure going down will also slowly increase.
Okay.
But if you don't have that, eventually blood vessels will start to dilate and those veins will get all tortuous, and then you'll have varicose veins, and then you have to wear long dresses.
Or not.
That's right.
You can own your varicose veins.
That's right, own it. Well, what?
You don't have to cover up.
That's right. So, the other thing is that sympathetic overdrive from the lower part of the pelvis, and then like the sacral area, and then the part of your spine here that has ribs, there's a sympathetic nerve chain that goes down that. Then that responds to fight or flight. It also, people have like a high glycemic diet, that'll actually trigger epinephrine and norepinephrine too.
Your sympathetic nervous
Yeah,
system.
your sympathetic one.
So, and if it's confusing, just think about it the opposite. I think sometimes I get confused and I think sympathetic nervous system means the one that helps you calm down because it's sympathetic, but that's not true. It's the opposite. It kind of helps you gear up. I mean, it's still a survival mechanism. But
you know how I figure out the sympathetic one? You didn't even jump. That's your sympathetic. She's all parasympathetic. It's all that yoga.
I'm chill.
She didn't even flinch.
I'm chill.
How'd you not flinch?
I didn't flinch because I always expect you to do something unusual also. I
tell my girls, I say, did you know girls that are super smart are easily startled? And they lean out like, did you know that? So then they're smart, right?
So, real quick. So we've been talking about women primarily, but men, you are not off the hook.
Nope.
Can you speak to that?
No, because men don't take care of themselves, so that's a done conversation.
And it's still 1 and 2 for men, right? Even though women are ahead?
Yeah.
In the statistics?
We admit defeat. I mean, we'll let you have heart disease, but we're not going to let you have prostate cancer.
They're number one.
No, you're not getting prostate cancer.
Men are number 1 in prostate cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 leading
for
cause.
cancer. For cancer, it's prostate. For women, it's breast. For men, it's prostate because it's estrogenic. And then you have the cancer.
A bigger killer is the cancer than the heart disease?
Yeah. Yeah. It overtook it.
So. Wow. That's crazy.
And then one of the other really big constrictors is what's called endothelium. You ever heard of that?
No, but we have no. Go ahead. No.
So,
I'm the pacer.
Endothelium are the strongest blood vessel constrictors. Strongest. They are the Wonder Woman of the Marvel cardiovascular system.
Or the Superman, right. Okay.
Yeah. So, What causes that? So we talked about the inflammatory omega-6 fatty acids, and we said they cause hypertension. Well, how, right? And that's through cytokines and prostaglandins, especially really heavy on the prostaglandins. But those inflammatory molecules then go and trigger the endothelial effect, which then causes vasoconstriction. So endothelians are powerful. So that corn-fed beef is hypertension. That corn-fed, farm-raised fish is hypertension. It is directly hypertension through those inflammatory pathways.
Okay.
And then you end up with end organ damage, like kidneys especially, which is cool because you got two, right? Roll the dice, you got two. And then if that doesn't work, then you just go down to Venezuela and tourist ends up in a bath full of ice with a thing on the mirror when they wake up that says, have fun, we have your kidney.
The only time it's okay to sacrifice your kidney is when you're giving it to someone else. You're not sacrificing your kidney just because you have two.
Is that true?
So let's give me a synopsis here.
I want to tell you how to fix the endothelians.
Oh, okay. We need to fix the endothelians. Right.
That's on part 2 next time.
Is it?
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
So one of the fastest way you can resolve it is, of course, the switching to omega-3 rich foods, taking omega-3.
Omega-3s.
Yeah.
I like to think Trinity. If you get confused with those, omega-3 versus omega-6, I used to be confused a lot. I like to think Trinity or Triad or...
I like Triton. I think of Triton. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. So...
Omega-3s is what you want.
3. 2 Tritons is omega-6. So don't do double Triton, only single Triton. But sunlight. That...
Sunlight.
Little sun out there, right? Up in the sky, that ball of fire. When you eat arginine, which is in most foods, although you should eat lysine-rich foods that are more lysine than arginine, and then that is fruits, vegetables, and fish. But that arginine then goes and creates what's called nitrous oxide, and the nitrous oxide actually stores in your tissue, and when you go out in the sunlight, that sun releases the nitrous oxide and your blood vessels dilate, and all of a sudden your blood pressure calms down. Sun.
If you've never heard of it, check it out.
It's outside.
It's outside. Go outside.
You have to go outside.
Yeah. A lot of people, I think, probably don't know.
That's why all the millennials are going to die. Because they don't go outside. That's terrible, boys. So, one thing too I want to talk about before we finish some of this is what are the nutrient depletions and the symptoms you should have for medication of chronically managing that hypertension so you don't have to go outside and you can eat corn-fed meat and fish.
So you're talking about medication now,
right?
As a negative issue, correct? What are the side effects?
Right.
Okay.
So the first line is hydrochlorothiazide, which is awesome double word Scrabble word there. But it depletes magnesium, which is muscle, so then you end up cramping, weaknesses. Potassium, which is weaknesses and cramps. Zinc, CoQ10. CoQ10 is how your body makes energy. Sodium, phosphorus. So
a lot of people probably don't know what some of these are, but that... HCTZ, that's the one you're talking about?
Well, the hydrochlorothiazide, that's, HCTZ.
Yeah. He's talking about how the medications create these nutrient depletions in the body.
Yeah. So most times when you take a medication, there is a drug nutrient depletion that takes place. And that's where you get all these weird symptoms from that don't seem to make sense on all the side effects. Yeah. So if you take that because you don't want to drink enough water or go outside in the sun, or you take birth control pills and are an angry person. Which if you're a really angry person, you probably don't need the birth control pills, right? You know what men use as birth control? Their personalities. So, weakness, cramps, PMS, heart disease, right? You can literally cause heart disease or heart attacks from taking a pill to prevent the heart attack.
Yeah.
weakness, low energy, dehydration. Okay. Then you have beta blockers. So the hydrochlorothiazide is not going to work for very long. So then you get on the second line, which is beta blockers. Those end in OLOL. Oh, laugh out loud.
Oh, laugh out loud.
Yeah. So atenolol.
Those are beta blockers.
Yeah. So they're not as bad, maybe as far as the amount, but what they do is CoQ10. So then you increase your risk of heart disease and you slow down. You can't think straight. Chromium, which then will mess with your blood sugar, which then makes more damage to your arteries. And then the worst one about that is melatonin.
So this is depleting those things. It's depleting the CoQ10, the chromium, and the melatonin.
That's right. So I now don't have high blood pressure, but I can't sleep at night, and my heart doesn't beat very hard, so I can't go upstairs very fast. Yay! Chronic management. So, what about ACE inhibitors? So, ACE inhibitors end with pril, like acupril, right? And the prils are not as bad as the rest because it's zinc and sodium. And so then with that you get weakness, dehydration, memory problems, healing problems, and sexual dysfunction. Conjunction, junction.
I was going to go there.
What's your sexual dysfunction? So that's ACE inhibitors. Now, I'll tell you what. That is one of the most common side effects I think I see is people getting fatigued. And for men, it is blood pressure that makes the chimichanga chimiha. No, that doesn't make any sense. It's the...
Yeah, we're waiting on this one.
It's the...
it's blood pressure that...
It's the Simon and the Garfunkel. It's the... It's what makes your hoo-ha, hoorah. There, hey! It's what makes your hoo-ha, hoorah. And if you lower that blood pressure, then you can't get all that blood supply into the penis, and then you're not a grower or a shower, and then you have depression, and then you go work in the shed all the time. This is scientifically accurate.
Okay.
So then you have calcium channel blockers.
So,
and these are pines. We were just talking about woodshop. Pine. So with these medications, calcium channel blockers, and it usually goes like this. It's this one, then this one, this one, because they all end up causing cardiovascular disease, and so then you have to take more and more to fix the next problem that you cause. Calcium channel blockers, I'm pretty sure that's the one that... Well, never mind. Vitamin D, so then you increase your risk of cancer and mood problems. Yeah. Moody people that have normal blood pressure. Maybe. And then you have the last one that they usually do, which is ARB blockers, angiotensin II receptor blockers. Again, we're right back to the same problem we had before, where it's those main nutrients that support everything. So calcium, magnesium, zinc, phosphorus, CoQ10. Guess what you need to make the heart work? Calcium, magnesium, zinc, and CoQ10. Not so much phosphorus. But, so then you end up with cardiovascular disease, weakness, osteoporosis, infection, slow healing times.
So essentially, what you really need are these nutrients, no matter what. Like, no matter what, for prevention, for cure, for healing. Right. You need these nutrients, and you need them in food sources, in whole food sources, in order to...
Whole food? That's crazy talk. Food.
You can't get it through pizza and McDonald's. You just can't.
A little bit.
The top... A little bit? All right.
So, next time we'll talk about what are the actual causes of cardiovascular disease, how we can change our lifestyle for those things, and with those blood tests, those are easy things that you can do. The VAP one, we'll talk about the VAP cholesterol, which actually shows how much you're repairing arteries versus how much you're deplaquing arteries. So if you're type A pattern, type B pattern, that's a huge relief when people are like, I got high cholesterol. And then it's like high LDL smalls, and you're like, or high LDL larges, and you're like, great, you're protecting your heart. And we'll talk more about that too.
So if you have any of these problems, you're struggling with anything that's heart related or hypertension related,
except for broken
or
hearts.
inflammation related, and you want to get these tests, that's one thing. But then if you have no idea where to start with your lifestyle, haven't even considered it, and this is the first time you're watching us, contact Dr. Garrett and get some help.
Yeah.
At
316-212-5429. And that's my cell phone. My office number, they gave it to me, but that just call my cell phone. It's fine. Just leave a message. And you can always schedule a consult, see if that's something, see what's going on with you that can help. But, oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many people with arrhythmia that are just like, it's all normal. We've even had pre and post cardiovascular plaquing on their Dopplers, where they had plaquing and then the second Doppler, no plaquing.
There's some really simple fixes that you would be really surprised about. We talked about this before the show. I mean, things like ginger and turmeric and like he can say this stuff works for you, but until you actually try it, it's hard to believe. But until you actually try it, you're not going to know. But the research is there, and it's pretty surprising.
Well, especially when people have high markers, and then they make these very basic changes to utilize those pathways. Then we retest later, and the cardiovascular markers went from up here to down here, and we know that they're now not causing more cardiovascular damage, and the diet's reversing it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So remember, your risk of heart attack goes down 70% just by going to a different country like France.
That's the lifestyle. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. It's all lifestyle. So we'll talk about fixes next time. And the next talk is on Valentine's Day. I'm going to be here for you guys.
Regardless of how you feel about Valentine's Day.
Right. I'm telling all the ladies, not this year. You guys are my ladies. And all you guys, you're my guy ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about physical heart problems, but maybe some emotional heart problems too. Yeah.
So we'll also talk about how your cat is your best boyfriend.
I'll talk about that because I know from personal experience.
She's always covered in cat hair. Like you have some guy has lipstick everywhere,
I like to take my cats everywhere I go.
She's always covered in cat hair.
I know there's some people out there who feel me.
If she killed someone, they would find a bunch of cat hair, and they'd be like, "It's Holly. She killed the person."
It wouldn't be DNA evidence. It would be my cat's DNA evidence.
That's right. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. I guess you guys can't see the new digs, but I like this office now. And
give them a call. Come in and visit.
Yeah.
All right.
Stop by and say hi. Bye, guys. Not that button.